Here's a tutorial on how to light yourself to take a photograph for a self-portrait that's going to be drawn with pencil. What you're going to need to do this is, first of all, something to take photos with. It could be anything, it doesn't have to be a special camera, just use your phone. You're also going to need yourself. You're going to need a room with one window, and that's all you really need to light your subject. But you might want to have a little more control over the lighting, so we're going to add one more thing, and that is something reflective. It could be a mirror, or it could just be something white, like a piece of paper or a bed sheet that reflects some of the sunlight that's coming from the window. And you might also need a Ninja. We'll talk about that later. So to make it easier for me to show you how to set up your lighting, I've created this little simple 3D simulation, and what you can see at the moment is the view through my virtual camera in the scene. The face is all blocked out with shadow, and there's a light along the face at the side, and that's not going to be very good for our drawing. So now you can kind of see the whole scene and why it looks like this. The window is behind the model. It's in the wrong position. In my simulation, I am going to move the window. In real life, you would move the model into the right position for the window. Obviously, you can't move your window, but the reason I'm moving the window is so that I can show you what happens to the light on the portrait when the light source is moved. So back to the view from our camera, and you can see that now we're lighting up the face, and we can see all of the detail that we need for our portrait. So to get this amount of detail, you're going to want to position your model, which is yourself at the moment, at a 45-degree angle from the light source being the window. So you can see the light coming from the window from a 45-degree angle is lighting up the face. And you would call this the key light in photography. We've got a few good things going on. We've got these lovely lines that are describing the 3D form along the face, but at this point, depending on the room that you're in, there might not be enough light reflecting off the walls and shining onto the shadow side of the face. So the line might be very, very sharp, and the contrast might be too high between the light and the dark. So I'm going to give you a really easy way of fixing that, and you don't need anything special for any of this. All you need is something that can reflect some of the light from the window. So this is called the use of a reflector. And one other thing you might need is what I've got here, a Ninja. But if you don't know a Ninja, you can just ask your parents or a friend to hold the reflector for you. And now we're going to see what happens when we bring that reflector closer to our model. And watch how that illuminates the shadows on the dark side of the face. It doesn't bring it up to the same brightness as the light side, but it adds variety to the lights and the darks on that side. It lowers the contrast between the light and the dark, and it also adds these lovely core shadows that happen between the reflected light and the direct light from the window. And with that one light source, the sunlight coming through the window and the reflector, you've already got a beautiful scene ready to photograph. But before we take our photograph, here is a quick summary of how the setup works. Okay, so you have your model, which is yourself in this case, facing directly towards the camera. The camera is pointing directly towards the model. The key light source, which is the window, is sitting at 45 degrees from your portrait, and then your Ninja with the mirror is going to be on the other side. And you can move this mirror or reflector around a little bit and just play with it to see how you can get the most out of the light in the photograph. And here's something that you definitely shouldn't do when you're taking your photograph, and that is to rely on the flash on your phone or on your camera. And this is what it would look like. Okay, so what we've got here is front on lighting, one big flash, and you can see that a lot of our lovely shadows from before have disappeared, and this new shadow down here around the chin has created a beard for our subject. And then we've got this big ugly cast shadow in the background on the wall. And it might not look too bad in your photograph, but when it comes to creating a drawing later on, you'll notice that it really works against you. And here's the finished product. This is the final photograph. And even though I'm not using any real people or real lighting, I've still created something that is going to translate into a drawing very well. And for your drawing, you can simplify it even further by just taking a portrait oriented photo of the face for your drawing.